I'm Steve Scherer. I'm Director of Sales with CCB. What I do is I oversee about half of our sales team. So I've got 5 reps in-house in Racine, and then I've got 3 that are outside, 1 in Seattle, 1 in Gurnee, Illinois, and then 1 in Phoenix, Arizona. So I'm responsible for 80% of my job is managing them, their territories, visiting customers. Logan and I are actually taking off on Monday. We're heading out to Colorado for a day and a half-ish. We're flying to LA to visit some other customers, so that's what I do. The other 20% is doing some recruiting, so I do some hiring as well for salespeople. My colleague here is Jacob Turowski. I'll let him do a little introduction of himself.
Hi, I'm Jacob. I'm one of our systems engineers in the services division, so I work with a lot of our customers doing our projects, things like that, and a little bit with our MSP, kind of the third tier for escalations if things make it that far. So I deal with a lot of Office 365, Virtualization, Azure, and then obviously our server stuff. So I'm here as your technical resource and questions and stuff for the summer.
And I was just going to put that out there as well. I don't take offense to it. This is the sales column. This is the technical column. So instead of being on the phone with a salesperson and they say, let me get back to you on that. We won't have to get back to you. If you ask me a question, I'm just going to look at him, and then he can answer your questions. If it comes about migration or all of that technical stuff, we can actually have the gentleman here. You won't get all of your questions answered during this time, but we want to answer them as much as possible. So please feel free at any point to interrupt me. Jump in, ask a question, and we'll just keep rolling from there. Sound good? Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. It's 3 minutes, 20 seconds, and you guys are already asleep. Just kidding. So what I like to do is to know where we're going so that I can know if I've been successful at the end of this conversation. If I don't know where we're going, then we won't know if we've got to our destination. And so one of my reps, Nick Salimas, was coming up from Gurnee, and he was asking about construction. And I said, yeah, there's construction. Hopefully I see it in Miller Park. Hopefully you have a GPS. He got here, so he was successful. That's what we're doing here. I'm only going to hit 5 things. One of those things is a Q&A. If there's no questions at the end and we work through them all through the conversation that we're going to have here, perfect. If you were in the sessions earlier today, you may have heard a little bit about CCB. I'll do my best not to repeat the things that Logan said before. That's why I asked who was in here before. But I do want you to know who we are. One of the things that I've noticed today so far is I've had multiple people ask or say, where have you guys been? Where did you guys come from? How did we not know who you were? So I'll get into that in a minute. End of support. Some people act as if the sky is falling when it comes to this, and to a certain degree, that's a fair assessment. But we'll talk about number 3, which I want to get into, which is fear and rewarded. So our president, Patrick Booth, has said there's 2 things that I believe really, he was talking about salespeople. There's 2 things that I really believe motivate our salespeople. Fear. Sometimes you got to drop the hammer on them, and reward. Sometimes you got to pay them. Sometimes you got to drop the hammer, give them a hug, and then give them a paycheck. So we'll talk about fear and reward and why people are moving and what you should be looking for. The last thing that we'll talk about before the Q&A is so what? So what? I got this information. Good time. We hung out. I'm going to go get some hot dogs. But from here, I want you to leave with something of what the next steps should be in the process and where CCB falls into that. All right? Sound good? Mm-hmm. All right. We're all still here. So this is CCB. This is CCB's executive team. We have been around for quite some time. We're coming up on our 25th year. We're in our 24th year right now. Our claim to fame is that we started nonprofit pricing through Microsoft. That didn't exist before us. So 501c3 nonprofits were paying the full retail price just like a corporation was before CCB showed up. Our story is long and involved, and if you see a gentleman, you can tell him I said this, I would totally throw me under the bus. You see a gentleman that looks like Colonel Sanders? He is the owner. Tell him, ask if you're interested to hear this story. And you'll probably hear, if 3 of you ask at different times, you'll hear 3 different iterations of it. The short of it is that he had a couple connections locally in Racine. You're fine. He had a couple connections locally in Racine, and they were asking if he could help them out with some discounted pricing. So he was able to get them some educational pricing, and that's what it was initially. Light bulb goes off in his brain. He was told from people this will not work, and he said, I'll show you. Started it out of his home 24 years later, here we are at Miller Park with roughly 800,000 people walking around. Our heartbeat is to serve our customers. What does that mean? It's not just about pricing for us. It's not just about pricing, because there's price everywhere. It's like a cancer. It spreads. If you get the best price but you don't know who you're calling and you don't know if you can trust the person on the other end of the phone, we've failed. So it's more than about price for us, and that's been our heartbeat all the way through. So starting off with Microsoft, and now here we are with all the hardware vendors that you saw downstairs. See some stats. Those are real numbers. We are in all 50 states as far as the customer base goes. We have customers all over the place. One of our largest customer has been with us about 20 years, and they are the world's largest nonprofit, and they're all over the world. I think they're in 95 different countries with 45,000 employees. We also have churches and nonprofit ministries locally in Racine, Kenosha area, Colorado, that have 2 computers. So whatever the scalability that you need from us, we can do that for you. Some other awards that we won. The last one that I'll highlight is down here, the CRN Solution Provider 250 list. The reason I put that on here is because that just happened, that just was released, I think, like a week ago. In parentheses, you see that we were on the 500 list for several years, which is great, but we're making strides. So where did we come from? We've been in Racine, we've got 2 locations, but we backed into our business model for when it came to nonprofit pricing. And now we're focused on serving those in the local area because we know what we're doing. We've got a fantastic team, and we're committed to serving our customers. So that's a little bit about who we are. I mentioned, so World Vision is who I was talking about before. These are some of our customers that we have. A couple ones that you'll notice locally. We got Andis, Educators Credit Union, in the last couple of years. Summerfest is a recent customer of ours. Bottom left-hand corner, the second one in, you can't really see that. It's Racine Economic Development Corporation. So you might see Jim Ladwig walking around from Raymac. We were steeped in our community, but hardly anybody knew who we were, and a lot of people today are learning who we are as well. So if booth tag wasn't enough, this doesn't have anything to do with booth tag, but this is a little bit of a game. And interaction. So, Windows Server was being developed in 2001. Does anybody know what the #1 single was and who the #1 single was by in 2001? Not everybody at once. It's just too crazy.
Beyonce?
No, but I like that you threw her out. Queen Bee, that is not her. It's messed up that I know that. Hanging by a Moment, Lifehouse. Anybody? Throwback? Yeah, a little bit. Next one here. Who? Sing? I'll keep it short and I'll sing a little bit. All right, what picture won Best Picture in 2001? The guys in the car got this one on the way up here. They didn't know the song. I'll give you a hint. One of the lines at the very beginning, something like to the effect of, "What we do in this life echoes in eternity."
That's Gladiator.
Boom. Love
That
it.
was not in the beginning of the movie.
When he goes to the fight. That's not the beginning.
It's like 10 minutes into the movie.
Oh, the movie's 3 hours long. It's 3 hours, 10 minutes. All right.
Gladiator.
I'm glad we're throwing. I'm glad. All right. Apple releases what in
Lisa.
2001?
iPod.
iPod. Yep. What website goes live online? There's another one that I bet that people know.
MySpace.
Wikipedia as well. Big year. And Napster gets shut down as well, officially. Microsoft releases what operating system?
Millennium XP.
Boom. See that hand? What TV show premiered in 2001 and it was like number 2 or 3?
Yes.
American Idol?
Close. You're in the right vein.
CSI.
In
Law and
this
Order.
time frame, this guy goes through an unbelievable amount of
Jackpot.
bullets. Yeah, 24.
Most unbelievable amount of bullets.
Yeah. 24 hours. That's so realistic, that show. Gas was
$2.25.
how much?
$1.35. 95 cents.
Close. $1.47. $1.47.
Wow.
Yeah, well, market, I guess that depends too. Payne, Ohio might be a little bit more. So this is specific to us. I actually pulled this from our website. On our website, if you visit our website, there's a lot of stuff. This was pulled from the blog section. So we actually have a Server 2003 blog that you can get this from, and a ton of other information, a video as well, on why upgrade. 2001, RAM, cost of RAM per gig, 201 times less expensive. Fastest processor was a Pentium 4. Wireless connections took about 12 minutes to transfer 1 gig of data. It's wild. That's when Server 2003 was being developed, 2001. We've come a long way. What I'm going to do now is just give you a brief overview of what end of support means. What does that mean for you? I'm not going to get into there's so much information that you can find online. I want to give you big chunks to just think about, and things that you may have already known. Hopefully not all of it will be known to you already. The biggest things to think about, it's a little bit washed out, so I'll tell you, working left to right, the first thing that people will talk about is no updates. So in 2013, there were 37 critical updates that were released just in the calendar year of 2013 for Windows Server 2003 R2. That's gone. So you won't be receiving anything from that standpoint. No compliance. Lack of PCI compliance. Does anybody for their organizations use customer information, credit cards, anything like that? Okay. So for you guys, obviously very important to stay PCI compliant. Something I will say that I found out after doing some research on this, that doesn't mean that if you're doing credit card transactions on one of your servers and you've got a server farm, that doesn't mean like everything's infected. If you were to get audited, you would be looking at that server. So that's just a little bit of knowledge for yourself. You still want to get off of 2003, but don't want you to think that your whole environment is going to be infected somehow or something like that. The lack of PCI compliance is there. No safe haven. Does anybody know what this means? I want to take a shot at what this means.
Possibility of being hacked.
So yeah, you've got no safe place to hide. You don't have any Jack Bauer protecting you. It's basically what this means. The patches, both from the update standpoint, the compliance standpoint, the safe haven, you don't have that protection that you had in the past. Whether you have virtualized or not, everything's connected to the internet at this point. So if you don't upgrade, you're leaving yourself wide open.
So the access to a breach is highly, highly likely.
Yes.
In each breach. Each
Yes.
information breach is like $200 per breach.
So, depending on what your organization does, and yes, yeah, I mean, minimum, I would think that on the low end, depending again on what your organization does. If you're a nonprofit, it might be much different. But if you are like an NGO, like one of our, like Susan G. Komen, for example, if they had a breach, that would look a lot different for them than it would be for a church, downtown or something like that. But yes, absolutely. So this last piece of moving, and I didn't even throw out the date, but you have till July. So I've got a countdown thing that I'll show you in a minute. I'm going to take you guys to some resources. Again, I'm just pointing you in the direction. This isn't going to be the conversation that answers all of your questions, but I'm going to pull up a couple websites in a few minutes here, and we can make all of this available to you just so it's easy for you to find. I'm going to push you to some things on Microsoft's website, some things on our website, and show you what the next steps can be, should be. Before I jump into fear versus reward, are there any questions so far? Anything that people want to hear about? All right. Just so if you're wondering, we're at 15 minutes and 35 seconds. Here we go, fear versus reward. I personally believe that yes, fear is a motivating factor. Yes, absolutely. But how many people drive a car that's older than 2001? That's in here. I do. I totally do. I'm not putting anybody out there. Mine's a 98, and it's coming up on 200,000 miles. So I identify with you all that run things into the ground. I run things into the ground. I don't want to just spend money just because something's new and shiny. That doesn't give me the functionality and also price point for a vehicle, for example. Basically, me holding on to my car or keep putting money into my car, the analogy falls apart, but it's similar to me completely just pouring in thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to keep my car running when I just need to bite the bullet and buy a new car. Another analogy that I've heard is your car seems like it's going really fast in reverse when you're in your driveway, but it doesn't seem that fast if you're getting on the interstate. That's pretty much the comparison of the technology in 2001 or certainly 2003 versus what you'll see coming up with 2012. It's going to seem really quick when you're in your driveway, but as you try to expand, you're going to see the speed is going to be the overall thing. So I'm going to talk about the rewards. The fear is that people are going to be hacking you and that you're going to lose money and that you're not going to be PCI compliant. That's all the stuff that everybody tells you about. These things are the things that I want to focus on because these are the things that I think are most important. Blazing speed. You're going to be way faster, 4 times faster than what you're experiencing now if you're running 2003. And I'll show you the charts in a second. The second thing is scalability. If your business or your organization is growing at all, you're going to want to look at the scalability that is within 2012. The last thing is virtualization. Is anybody virtualized or interested in virtualization? Okay, cool. Anybody can throw out something. Why? Why virtualization? Why are you moving to it? Why have you moved to it?
Disaster recovery.
What's that?
Disaster recovery.
It's great. It's good. You got anything?
Hopefully it'll be easier to like upgrade stuff,
Upgrades.
hardware, and expand storage space.
It's good. It's good. So you're on your way to there, to
Yeah, we're not
virtualization?
there yet.
Okay, that's good. Anybody else?
Fewer physical servers?
What's that?
Fewer physical servers?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What he said.
Yeah.
Fewer
Yeah.
than
Fewer
one?
full. Yeah. You are.
Every one of my customers has only one server,
Okay.
and they have no need for more.
Yep. So you can virtualize and now, poof, you got them 4 servers. Yeah. So the capability of virtualizing. I'm not a car guy, but here's another analogy. It's similar to like driving a Corvette in a parade. Yeah, I can drive in a parade. It looks nice, but if you virtualize, let's get on the highway. Let's start driving. You're utilizing more space on the servers. The capacity is there, but you're not utilizing the capacity whatsoever. So virtualization, and I put Hyper-V in parentheses because of the compatibility and the upgrades and the improvements that have been seen with Hyper-V. Is anybody currently using Hyper-V for virtualization? What are your thoughts, sir, if you wouldn't mind? Oh, sorry, behind you. Yeah.
What are my thoughts?
Yeah, on Hyper-V.
I
Anything?
just started using it. I mean, it's pretty easy to use.
Good.
Yeah, very easy.
Interface. The GUI. Like what's easy about it? I guess.
Yeah, setting up
Okay, good.
new instances and moving them. You know, like it's really easy to move one server to another Hyper-V server.
Good.
You don't need to go offline.
It's fantastic. Good. It makes more sense for you to say the things than for me because
Sure.
again I said I was a sales guy and then the service or the technical guy. But yeah, the interface for even a sales guy, for when I saw watching tutorials of what IT managers go through, it's very clean. It seems very clean and user friendly. Bottom line for me and for this, the rewards is productivity. You will exponentially increase your organization's productivity by moving from where you are to, it can be 2012, it can be 2008, or to whatever, but moving from where you are to something else. I'm talking about 2012 a lot right now because it's the latest iteration. So now I'm going to pull up, I'm going to split the screen up here. I'm just going to pause and let you check this out. Okay, so this is all readily available for you to find online. So on the right hand, oh, that is a quote by Michael Jordan. Hey, look at that.
That's why you have this.
So Windows keys.
Technical guy.
I just done Windows Shift, and then I'm going to move it from one window to the other using the same.
Okay. So
Windows
left hand
Shift
side.
and the arrow will move it in the same position from monitor to monitor.
Wait, let's tell everybody that.
That's a huge value.
Everybody know about snapping in Windows? So Windows and the left or right arrow will snap things. If you do Windows Shift and the arrow, it'll move it in the exact same position from monitor to monitor. Even if you have 3 or 4, 6.
We shall walk out.
If nothing else, thank you, Jacob, for that. All right, I'm good. Right hand side, we've got, excuse me, 2012. Left hand side, We've got 2003. So let's pop this out here. See this a little bit better. Real quickly, this is what, at a snapshot, this is what we got going on. Processors, RAM, again, talking about speed. I'll move it down in just a second here, and then I'll pop over to 2012. You'll see once I pop up the 2012, in some instances it's like comparing apples and oranges. It's not even, I don't even, you'll see. So, put up 2008 actually, because a lot of our customers are running that as well. Are you guys able to see that all right in the back? The virtualization. So the right-hand side in the bottom right-hand corner, 8,000 virtual machines, 320 logical processors. It's simplified. It's blazing speed. It's much faster. It's much more productive for your organization. So let me pop back up here. So that's one option. It's moving there. Before this talk, Windows Azure. After this talk, Windows Azure. The last session here, Office 365. Our goal is not to sell you something that you don't need, or to upgrade you to something that is gonna break your budget or something like that. Well, Microsoft has a platform for anybody. You can cater to any of your organizations and what your desires are. I literally sat in front of a customer a month and a half ago at their headquarters in Racine, and they're a multinational organization, and we're talking to one of the decision makers, and she's very excited about the potential project, and we're pitching. At the time, it was a networking opportunity. She was excited about it, and then she said, you guys do a lot with Microsoft, right? I said, yeah, a little bit. That's what we built our whole business on. What do you guys think of Office 365? So we went into a whole different conversation. The point of me telling you this is that the gentleman sitting next to her had been there 4 times as long as his boss. And his response was, yeah, that's cloud. We'll go to the cloud kicking and screaming. I say that to say that if you feel that way, you're in good company. People are moving to the cloud, but we can cater to whatever your organization's need is. Jacob is on the other end of the phone when you're having a technical discussion about making a plan for your organization. These are just some options here. What I would suggest, has anybody been to the Microsoft site and seen how you can plan out the migration, you can assess your environment and things like that? Anybody seen that? It looks like this. It's a very simple process. First thing I would highly suggest is to go through a full inventory of your current servers and take note of how many servers are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing, and find out where you want that to go and where you want them to end up. If you don't know where you stand, you have no clue of how you're going to get to where you think you want to go, and we won't know how to help you either. So we want to take an inventory of what you're currently doing and how it currently works in your environment now. If you have a current server, does that mean you have to upgrade your server as well? It's the perfect time to, and you absolutely can. Do you absolutely have to? You don't have to. Refurbish that. First step, discover, then assess and target, and then I'll move over to migrate. I'm going to pull up this website here just to show you all what I'm talking about. If you've been there, you'll be familiar with this. I don't remember what you said, Jacob. Windows Shift Arrow. This is the website here. And if you do just a Google search or a Bing search, this will pop up. Nobody uses Google, come on. You pull it up, type in moving from 2003 to 2012. This will pop up. It's a short video that I won't show. It's all right. This is how long you have left. What I just showed you on that slide, the discover, assess, target, migrate, this is right where it comes from. First step, discover. Then assess, then target, then migrate. That's the simplicity of it. What I think, from CCB standpoint, what I think you need to know is that hopefully this demystifies all of the mumbo jumbo that can be about moving from where you are to where you need to be. It's not an impassable thing. It's not an improbable task. It is a lot of work because it's not all that you do, but it's not impossible. It's very simple, 4 steps. The next step here is for CCB. Before I jump into this, questions on what I was just on that webpage, I can go back if anybody needs to see that again. Good? So our approach, this is where Jacob comes in, and technical questions, please feel free to start firing them at this point. So the thing is, what now? Where do we go from here? Our approach is not, again, to upsell you on something that is on sale right now. Our approach for 24, going on 25 years, has been to serve those customers that we have and customers that we're going to have. How do we do that? We want you to trust us. And how can we build trust? We do what we say. And we do it quickly. And we do it better than our competition. One of the things is our services division. This is just a wheel that you'll see if you visit our website or any of our services materials. In that white book that you may have gotten, it's really clean looking, CCB on the front. This is in there. This is what we do. We start off with consulting and assessing your current environment, similar to what Microsoft is talking about here. We got to know what we're dealing with first. Then we move through the wheel on what works best for your environment. Sometimes it's referring you to someone else. Because if we don't know what we're doing, we're not going to mess up your environment. But this is where we start. I didn't say it at the beginning, but I'll say it now. Hopefully there's a theme that you're seeing with CCB, with Microsoft. We are deeply entrenched with Microsoft and with the partners that you see downstairs. But we have your best interest in mind with each of them. Everything that we've done from CCB standpoint has been a reaction to a customer need. The discount from Microsoft pricing all the way to starting up the services division has been in response to customer need. So at this point, based on your environment, what are people's thoughts about Windows Server 2012 or moving from where you're currently at to where you need to be migrating off of that? Anything at all?
I was just kind of wondering, we don't have any 2012 servers. We have some 2008, all varieties of 2008, and we have a 2003 server. I was just kind of wondering if anybody or if you would have shed some light on how easy it would be to migrate. And plus, I'd like to point out, my company was basically ran by, pretty technical savvy help desk people, but not really high-end people. So I have servers that have domain controllers, SQL on them, file servers, and everything under the sun on one server. And I'm trying to figure out a good way to get that all migrated off into separate systems, because I don't like having the domain controller with every last thing under the sun on it.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, the very short answer is it depends. To expand on that a little bit, I think it comes down to what types of applications you're running on that 2003 server. So you're exactly right.
We have SharePoint on it, an old version of SharePoint.
Office 365.
But
realistically, the first place to start is looking at what type of applications you have on there, and then finding the best places to offload those applications to. So things like SharePoint and Exchange and things like that. Obviously, Office 365 is a very valid option for that. If not, you're looking at utilizing one of the other servers for those functions. So I think the first thing is assess what you're running on that 2003 box that you want to move, and then find other places that you can put that. Unfortunately, that may mean moving around other components on those other servers to align with something. So if you have an SQL server that you're wanting to pull off of that DC, so don't recreate your same problem, right?
Yeah. Okay, so my 2003 server has SharePoint, has SQL Server, it's also a file server, and it's a domain controller.
Oh goodness. I mean, I love Office 365. I've done a bunch with Azure, and I've done a bunch with Office 365, and it's a great platform. The SharePoint components we use heavily. I think we're a very, very extensive user of SharePoint. I mean, we've hit the 5,000 item threshold in probably 5 or 6 different libraries. I mean, we use it a lot. It's a great platform for that. We've done migrations migrating from on-premise SharePoint into 365, and it's pretty straightforward. It's a smooth process.
What about, we have our intranet and everything running on SharePoint. I don't know if this is something we want to do or not, but like if we wanted to migrate that into a new SharePoint, is that easy to do, or will we have to hire consultants and work with them?
It's fairly straightforward. We have some nice connections with a couple different vendors that we use some tools for. So I've done it in conjunction with those tool sets. I've not done it using the straight Microsoft migration.
I don't know if we would want to migrate that off, but I'm just wondering, is that a possibility?
It's a possibility. Yep, you can do almost all, not quite all, of the functionality of on-premise SharePoint in Office 365. There's some minor differences for stuff. Some of those item thresholds and a couple different things are there, but most of it you can. I think the big thing with there would be probably virtualization would be a potential option for you with those 2008 servers. A DC would be a great thing to virtualize in one of those components. It's
looking into that. Yeah.
Yep, it's a very easy way to utilize resources that are still on some of those other boxes that are sitting around, and it allows you to also alleviate the problem of, instead of recreating this issue where we have a DC, SQL, and SharePoint, everything all on this machine, and I'm just going to move the DC to another machine that has SQL or something else on it. If you make that VM, now you have a contained environment that you can put that domain controller on and still utilize the resources that might be available on one of those other machines. Domain controller is a great option for that. The SQL stuff, obviously you're utilizing the SQL backend for the SharePoint components, so those two might be a little bit more tied together. I don't know if you have other SQL components on that server.
I don't believe so.
Yeah, it's probably the backend
version of SharePoint.
Yeah, it's probably the backend for SharePoint.
And I think they originally started using it to use it for files, because we had people at different locations that weren't on the same network. Now they are, so that has changed since then. But I mean, we had people that needed to access the same files, so that's one of the big reasons they went to SharePoint. We're talking a long time ago. Yeah,
and the other option too, depending on the size of things, you don't have to also limit yourself. That's a perfect example. You don't have to limit yourself from going from Server 2003 to another Windows Server product. File servers, for instance, utilize things like Synology and QNAP and other NAS-type devices that are designed to do that and give you increased functionality. You can certainly go from a Server 2003 file share to something like that. Those devices are all Active Directory integrated, so they can follow your same access control list. They can use your same user authentication from your domain controller, and give you the redundancy of having multiple disks. You're in a RAID array. You don't have to worry about as much data loss that way.
Yeah, but you have a pretty huge expense for starting it.
Yeah, and they're not too bad. I mean, some of the Synology devices you can get for, the smaller units like the 5-bay one, I think they're fully loaded can be a couple thousand. And I mean, that'll run, those are even certified to run virtual machines, so they can be an iSCSI target for a server running VMs on them. So there's some other stuff that way too that you can expand and not have to just say, oh, I'm going from Server 2003 to a Server 2012 file server. You can utilize some of those components too to alleviate the functions that are there. I encourage you to look at the functions and the software that the server is running rather than just the fact that it's a server, because it'll give you a much better direction of where you're going. If it's SharePoint, you can Office 365 or other file hosting solutions. If it's just straight file server, you can use a NAS or other things like that. You don't have to just box yourself into, oh, I got to go to Server 2012 or 28R2, 2008R2.
I know my company is a nonprofit, so we get pretty good pricing, and I know that. But even so, it's like I'm amazed that they don't want to put money into certain things, even though it's a tenth of what a for-profit would pay. I mean, literally, it's probably something like that. So I mean, there's always that threshold of getting people to get on board and to get the money there for it. So I'm not sure. I've been talking about doing virtualization, and I know we can get the data center, Hyper-V, pretty cheap compared to other companies.
Right.
Which I want to do, but I think the hardware is kind of, for me, it would be a bigger cost than that, than getting the licensing.
One of the things that we do also, I appreciate you opening up and sharing all that stuff, because there's probably other people that
Shame.
Yeah, no shame, no shame.
Yeah.
One of the things that we do to carry on this conversation is, so the step in between myself and Jacob is our sales engineering team, so our sales engineers, and this is what they do. They have these conversations every single day. Their calendar is booked, it's packed with these conversations. We set aside an hour. It doesn't go an hour, fine, but they talk about your environment specifically and what you want to do. So we talk to you, we assess this, and then we design it. And then we say, okay, here's the design that we've come up with to get you to where you would like to go. How would you like to proceed? So when you're talking about a consulting firm and things like that and hiring somebody else, that's what we do. That is totally what we do. That's what our whole services team is here for.
Okay.
So if we can help you with that, anybody that has the blue shirts on, has business cards on, and you've been scanning people too, so you probably have their information in there as well, give us a call, shoot us an email, and we would absolutely be thrilled to set up a call with our sales engineering team, our sales engineers, to be that bridge to get you from where you are to where you want to go, and help construct something that then lands on Jacob's desk, and he says, yeah, we need this, and here's the scope back to you, scope report back to you, whether it's 365 or Azure or whatever.
So basically, what you're saying is you're a one-stop shop for everything, that you don't need to go out there and get a consultant. We can consult with you. We have the engineers to handle that, and then you take the time out of your guys' day to assess each and every single customer in specific to exactly what their needs are.
You have a $20 bill on you? Yes, that was a joke. I was going to pay him. That's exactly what we do. Yes, that's exactly what we do.
One of the really cool things about what I'm able to do as part of the services division is we have everything from a full managed services environment where we're implementing that and managing it and taking care of it, all the way down to, hey, we just want to do an assessment for you. So we've done some stuff before where we've gone in, looked at the environment and gone, ooh, that's bad, you want to change that. Hey, this looks good, here's some recommendations, here you go, package it all up, give it to them, and then if you want to use us for services, hey, great. If you don't want to use us for services and you just want to do that assessment piece and get another set of eyes on things, awesome. So again, just tailoring to what you're looking for. So we can do everything across the board. If you want us to do that and bring everything on, help implement those servers, and then be brought on as a managed service customer, awesome. All the way across the board for whatever you want to do, you have that flexibility there as well to do as much or as little of the services department as what you want to utilize. So it's kind of a nice flexibility for everybody.
But just what you said, that was how we built the business. Like everything that we've done from software with Microsoft all the way to a managed services division is what you said. We want to. Our goal is to be a one-stop shop for our customers, because over the 24 going on 25 years, the questions have come up. Hey, do you guys do this? And then we figure out how, and we assemble a team. And now we're getting to the point where we can be that one-stop shop. And if people want to go with their, a local guy because their brother-in-law does things, fine. We'll fit in where we can fit in. But yeah, it's specific to each customer. We don't do a cookie cutter thing. It's for you. Yeah. So it's we're at. Oh yeah, right here.
Where in that circle do we have to start paying you for?
And that's my time. If you're going to buy something, it would be procurement.
All this consulting and
That's
assessment.
all free.
Okay.
Well, depending on the assessment itself, depending on what the assessment is. So there's an assessment that you can run through Microsoft. The thing that I showed you on Microsoft's site that you can, that's apart from us, we're just pointing you in the direction of getting that going. There's other assessments that we run that sometimes we package into a deal and then it's completely free. But the scopes of work that we put together for Office 365, we've migrated over 55,000 seats, I think now, of Office 365. Every one of those scopes was built out on someone's specific environment as part of the process for free. There's no paying us until you sign the scope of work, and then we start doing the work for you. Yeah. But if it was a piece of hardware,
when you start talking to you.
Yeah, because we got to pay.
We usually you can talk with a salesperson, you can talk with a sales engineer, and have a lot of those discovery type conversations as just part of designing what's there for you. When it comes across my desk and actually write up a technical plan for what we're doing, that's the point in that process where you kind of start. Okay, here's where the fees come into play.
So you present 4 options, and he narrows it down to 2.
Yeah. I'm like, this is what
Sometimes.
they want to do, and we need it done by next week. Well, and on top of that, I try to slam more into his schedule. and then just keep giving them coffee and make sure it gets done next week. But yeah, I'm the guy that promises him. We're at 41 minutes. It's 11:14. Anybody have any other questions or comments or anything? Yeah.
If I've got a fairly simple 2003 environment, file server, Active Directory, print server, nothing fancy in terms of Exchange or SQL or that kind of stuff. From what you guys have seen, is there a path from 2003 to 2012 directory? Do you really need to do a hop to 2008 to get there?
It depends. Something like that, you can probably go direct from one to the other. In almost all cases, I personally, and most of our department, prefer to do a clean installation, meaning that rather than migrating a whole bunch of stuff, start with a new 2012 R2 box and then bring those services over. So when we talk about Active Directory, you can join that into the domain, and then as far as stuff, you can bring that over. But as far as the migration process, you're just going to bring over your Active Directory content and bring that over fresh. File services, the same type of thing. Rather than adding that whole thing into a DFS type configuration or something, just start with your fresh, clean file services and everything else, and then just bring the data over. You can usually go kind of one or the other. I don't think I would recommend going a hop in between. Only in some rare circumstances, if you had some legacy type application or something that wasn't going to do a straight upgrade. But certainly something like that, you can go directly from one to the other. And depending on those configurations, sometimes it's easier to do a straight migration with like Active Directory. Sometimes we've recommended, people have looked at it and they're like, I inherited this Active Directory structure when I got here. You're like, oh, just make a new one, start fresh. So, but I would definitely say you can usually go straight from one to the other.
Thank you for your time and attention. We're done. 11:15 on the dot. That's us. You'll see us walking around with blue shirts. We're here to serve you guys. So if you need any other help, grab our business cards. Contact us down the line.